I'm Dan Cox, and I'm joined here today with Mitch Clarke, UFC fighter. Mitch, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Just got done work and training, so I'm doing well.
Now, everybody knows you missed the home fight there at Saskatoon. You had an issue with acupuncture and a needle and everything. How are you doing from that? Are you getting the feeling back? And can you kind of tell everybody a little bit what happened with that situation?
Yeah, totally. So what happened was I was getting IMS treatment after I was getting tendonitis in my elbows, something small. And so get IMS treatment to help kind of speed the healing along, help it out a little bit. And it was one of the last needles to go in, and you hear a click of the needle, and you wonder what happens if you hear the person doing it say, "Uh-oh." And you never want to hear a healthcare professional say, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
And so they basically told me that the handle had broken off, and then I had to go to the emergency room and get it cut out.
Now, when you get acupuncture and that needle goes in there, the muscle contracts. So I assume that it pulled that needle in there. Is that what happened? Oh.
I got pulled into the deep, like probably about half an inch to an inch underneath. It was turned this way, so it went kind of like down and pulled across. So I went to the ER, and they said they didn't want to remove it. It's an 1.5 inch long needle that stuck in my arm, and they didn't want to remove the foreign body. So they didn't want to remove it. After waiting 5 hours to see a doctor, I came back the next day because every time I turned my forearm like this, I could feel it cut into new tissue. And finally, after waiting another day and trying to get in with a doctor, came back another day, and they finally cut it out. And when they took it out, it was basically like a Z, depending on your country. So it was a bad experience. I lost a lot of sensation in my arm. For a while there, I was dropping things with my hands because I didn't know I couldn't hold on to stuff. And just with a lot of physio rehab and stuff like that, I can grip again properly as hard as I can. And I'm trying to get a little bit of sensation back in my forearm. So it's been a long, arduous process, but it's just about keeping a positive attitude while I go through this crappy time and keep training and not get discouraged, because it's not so much what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And, that's what I believe in, and it's just going to be keep moving forward, and I definitely plan on fighting again.
Well, and that's one of those freak things that you never hear about happening. I know I've never heard about that happening before, and your attitude about it is exactly what it takes to move on and to be a champ and to get to the next level. Now, you were just competing in a tournament. Can you tell me a little bit about the grappling and everything, how that went?
Yeah, I went out to Nova Scotia in Canada. They had Submission Series Pro. They put on these big events for submission-only tournaments, 15 minutes, no time limit, no holds barred in a sense, like no all submissions legal, all takedowns legal. So it's right up my alley. It's how I really love watching the ADCC, and I love that format. The EBI tournaments are amazing. It's nice with one match, where you can just have a draw. So the Metamorph format is exactly up my alley. I love it. They had me match up with a guy named Scott Noss. He's a brown belt from out there. Tall, lanky, really good off his back, that kind of thing. I wasn't prepared that he was almost 6'5".
Holy moly!
So that kind of, it kind of took me off my game a little bit when I got to the venue, and I shake his hand, and he's a step below me, and he's still much taller than me. Because I'm only 5'10", maybe 5'11" on a good day. So I I was working a lot of like wide angle knee cuts and stuff during the match, and he was regarding quite easily. So I changed up my game. I kind of shut him down a lot. The idea was to use that pressure. You know, I love pressure guys, break them, felt them break, and then he didn't want to just get submitted. And finally turned it up with a couple of minutes left in the mat. Turned it up and hit a knee bar into a block, and it was over.
You know what you said right there really speaks to what I watch as a fan, watching you compete, is seeing you break guys and seeing you get in there and competing at that pressure, that persistence, that never quitting. And I've got to ask you, you know, growing up, I mean, you're from Canada, obviously hockey. I mean, my life was all about hockey. I spent almost, from 10 to probably 17, I was in Canada my whole life. So how is it that you went from not playing hockey to getting into mixed martial arts?
So I do not play hockey. I can't even skate. Unfortunately, my brother is the hockey player. So is my father. Unfortunately, I'm not. Wasn't the most coordinated at times. I was a good swimmer. Played a lot of sports. Most importantly, I wrestled.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing, was wrestling. We had a really good coach, and he was very big on constant work in high school. High school wrestling where I started, and did a little bit in college, and I was wrestling at a really low weight class. I didn't really want to after a couple of years, and made a transition, and I was bored. I was doing weightlifting. I was doing powerlifting, powerlifting style workouts. I think it only gets you so far, and I saw the Ultimate Fighter was coming on. I'd watched Ultimate Fighting Championship before that. I loved Ultimate, you know, like the Ultimate tournaments with like Dan Severn, and the second one with Don Fry.
Yeah.
Don Fry was my favorite. Loved the way he fights. Loved his personality. Loved his scrabbly voice. Sounds like he's just, you know, like he's just gargled buckshot and whiskey. You know what I mean? So he's quite a character. He's my favorite fighter. Just tough as they come.
Best mustache in the game, Mitch. And if you look back at his fight, and I cannot remember the Japanese, I believe it was a Japanese fighter that he fought in Pride, big giant guy where they literally stood there in the corner right from the bell and just traded right hands. It was like a hockey fight. They held on and just threw rights. That I was addicted, you know, before that. But when I seen that, I was, you know, that made me love Dan. Or Don, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was incredible.
It's hard not to like Don Fry. You know, his fight against Takahashi I think it's Takahashi.
I think so.
I think. But he's amazing. I love watching him. I love hearing him speak. He's hilarious. Whether he means to or not, I don't know. But he's that old school guy, and I like it. So I saw the Ultimate Fighter. I thought I'd go train. You know, you're a wrestler. You think you're tough. So I'm gonna beat up all these bumps, and I got beat up my first training session and loved it. And I love with it since.
You know, it's one of those things that you're either a competitor inside or you're not. And obviously you're a competitor. Now, what was when you for the people that are listening and they want to know how you get from a wrestler that's getting into MMA to someone that is a successful UFC fighter, a guy that's out there winning grappling tournaments, that is really, I mean, you've changed your life with fighting. And, you know, for the people that look at you and see that nice smile and that next door guy, that is not, Mitch is a great guy. Mitch will break your leg, though, if you give him a chance. What is it? Could you give any advice to any of the guys that are really looking at this as a serious profession? Is there something that it takes inside? You know, obviously you can work the talent, but you've got to have something inside. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, you know, I'm a little bit different. I have no quit in me. I won't quit. And that's just from my wrestling coaches. That came from wrestling. And that's just sometimes stupidity. Sometimes I'm tougher than I am smart. But more than anything, it's just it comes. It's deep inside. You can't teach heart, and you either have it or you don't, unfortunately, in my opinion. You have all the talent in the world, but if you have a lot of quit in you, it shows. And for me, to give advice to new guys, it's consistency. You got to play the long game in MMA and in any grappling sport or striking sport, combat sports in general. It's a long game. These guys who want instant secret moves, ninja moves, all that garbage. It's not, there's no secrets here, like Kung Fu Panda. There is no secret ingredient. It's just hard work. It's consistency and sacrifice, and that's what it takes. There's no secrets here.
Yeah, and the game has changed now to the point where MMA and the UFC has evolved into the biggest sport, the fastest growing sport in the world, as far as I'm concerned. I'm 47. I've watched, combat my entire life, a big fan. And we're at a point now with MMA that it is, especially with Ronda Rousey coming in and bringing the women in too, that it's becoming a huge, huge force. Did you ever in your life think that you would be on such a stage doing what you do?
Never. Especially in this. Growing up, I was going to be a professional athlete, and I dabbled in so many sports, and you do well, but you come up short, and it's heartbreaking, and it's just dealing with all these heartbreaks repeatedly. And unfortunately, even when you find the profession where you're really good at, there's still a lot of heartbreaks. I'm a more sensitive person than a lot of fighters, unfortunately. So I wear a lot of my emotion on my sleeve more of the time. But the big thing is just I'm about hard work, and I knew that when I started fighting, when I had my first professional fight, that I wanted to go to the UFC. I wanted to be in the show. I wanted to win. I wanted to, nothing was going to stop me, and I was very lucky to get into the UFC. And so far, I've hit most of my major goals. I still have a couple left, and I still plan on being there and hopefully showing people what I can do.
Now, Mitch, what was it like? I mean, my God, people, everyone watches the UFC, they love it. What was it like when you got that phone call and you were, getting signed to the UFC the first time? What was that like? And then what was it like to actually walk out for the first time? Everyone talks about octagon jitters and all that stuff. I mean, it had to be just a huge emotional experience for you.
For the first UFC fight, it was to get the call. It was an amazing feeling, but you almost can't believe it. You don't know what you're supposed to feel, and you feel elated, and you feel good, and you feel nervous, and you feel everything. It was a cool experience. My manager called me, and it was different because I was supposed to be fighting already, have to fight against a tough vet, and so it was cool that I got told my fight got pulled. So I was pissed off because, honestly, I needed the money. I was, I was working off. I was eating, ground chicken.
Yeah.
That I was surviving on ketchup packets for fucking. Oh.
Yeah, it's all right. We're allowed to say fuck on the show.
Okay. I was in a bad way financially at that point, and I did everything I could and prepared as best I could for that first fight. I was game, but I wasn't prepared maybe mentally the best I could for that fight and against John Cholish. He was a very tough guy. And stylistically a very tough fight for me. An all-American wrestler, and brown belt jiu-jitsu, and a very good jab. Yep. But I still came out and tried my best, and unfortunately I gassed out. Like you said, the octagon jitters got me, and to be honest, when I was in the back and waiting for my walkout, I just wanted it to be over. It was the worst experience of my life. I just wanted it to be over. All this pressure, all this
anticipation,
anticipation, and I just wanted to get it over with. I didn't wasn't necessarily caring about what the outcome was. I just wanted to be over, and it makes it really tough when it's your passion. And I'm kind of at some points it made me change up my game a lot and how I mentally prepare, and it made me change teams and a lot of other things that made me take a step closer to being successful. Even though in my second UFC fight I didn't win, there's some other stuff that went with that, but I took a step closer to being successful too, so I was able to get that first win in the UFC.
Well, it's funny because when people speak and they say octagon jitters, in my mind as a competitor, you're just on the biggest stage in the world for your sport. And so you've worked your whole life to get there. And then once you get there, that the anticipation, the anxiety, the pressure has got to be overwhelming. But once you get over that and you're able to become Mitch Clarke in the ring and you're able to have your own identity, you're focused and you're moving, and that's what you did. That has to be, that has to make you feel good. You have to get something out of that because you turned that around and you became, in my mind, I watched you fight and one of the best grapplers in the game, beyond a doubt, no doubt about it.
Well, I turned a lot of it around. Fortunately, in my second fight in the UFC in Calgary, I blew up my knee about 15 seconds into the fight. I lost a split decision, which I still think I won.
Yeah.
Not to have sour grapes or anything like that, but I think I should be 3-2 in the UFC as opposed to 2-3. I don't know. I thought I won.
I agree with you, Mitch. I thought you won too.
I thought I had the first 2 rounds. I won that first round for sure. One leg.
Yep.
It's hard to take someone down with missing a knee. But and I dropped him in the second round with an up kick, and I don't know. It's tough. I'm not a judge. I thought I won that fight, and I just used it as all experience to get into that moment where I did win a fight in the UFC, and no one can take that away from me. I've done more than so many people have ever dreamed of doing. Fighting in the UFC is one thing, but to get a win in the UFC is so monumental for me and for my career, and over a very tough guy as well.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the best fighters, the best martial artists in the world. Not in Canada, not in the States, in the world. And to me, I mean, as a fan, there was no doubt that you won that fight. To me, I was kind of shocked. And that brings up a super point for me, which is the judging. When you're a fighter that is a grappler, that maybe, like with you, Mitch, when I watch you fight, I see your will dominating. I see you breaking guys with just your will. You just will not quit. You continue to come and come. It's got to be frustrating to know when it's a close fight, even though you won that fight, and you know it. And your opponent knows it too. Make no mistake about it. He knows it too. And it goes to the judges. That has to be the most scary point, waiting for that decision, because there's so much on the line for you.
Well, I think that, the judges and some of the fans don't understand how big that a win or a loss can change your life, can change your career. A win or a loss can be the difference between being able to make payments on your mortgage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be able to keep fighting in the UFC. If you have a loss, sometimes you have 2 losses in the UFC, you're gone. And whether it's a split decision or not, sometimes you're still turf. So they're still a business and they have to do what they got to do. So, and I don't think these judges, a lot of these judges are boxing judges, I've found, and then you get some other ones that they have no background.
Yep.
I'd rather have a boxing judge than someone who has no background that thinks they know. I want all the judges to eat one leg kick.
There you go.
from a professional athlete and feel what it fucking feels like to eat some shin to the leg.
Yes, and then they will judge that leg kick and they'll put some points to it. Because you know what? The reality is you got the judges sitting on different sides of the cage. They're missing a bunch of they can't see. Their angle is not good. They're under the impression that they're seeing the TV screen like we are as fans.
Yeah.
They're not. So they miss so much. And then when you've got a guy that is not educated in mixed martial arts and he's judging based on, criteria that is really wrong for the sport, it's unfair because, like you said, there's so much on the line. I mean, we're talking about one fight could change your life, and there's so much on the line. And it's something I think is going to change because there's no way that you can continue to have some of the bad calls, some of the bad, even with refs. We've had some guys that have made some pretty bad calls recently, and we got some bad judging. It's part of the game. You always hear Dana White say, don't leave it in the cage, don't leave it in the judge's hands. That's a great thing to say. Unfortunately, at this level, it's hard to finish fighters.
Right. Well, that's the idea with like the old school average off-league combat championships. Right? They have no points, and then matches are going on forever, and it's a tournament format. It's the same thing as like you have to have guys are so good at it that they can't always finish someone, and it's perfect world, everybody's gonna end in a finish spot. It doesn't happen that way, unfortunately.
No, I mean, when you get to this level where you're at, Mitch, I mean, you're talking about the best in the world, not the best in Saskatchewan, not the best in Canada, not the best in Michigan. This is the world, and you're competing with the best. And these guys have been training their whole lives to get to that point. So it is not going to be the easy finish. It's very rare that you see one fighter that's able to dominate his opponents to the point where there's no doubt, right? If it goes to a decision, very rarely do you see it where it's no doubt. It's always in the judge's hands without the finish. That's a scary thing when it's your entire life, like you said. You're not just talking about your career, you're talking about your family. You're talking about everything that's there on the line. So I guess it would lead me to this question. I would ask you, Mitch, is where do you see, because you have the ability, you have the talent, and you've shown it, to beat anybody in your division. No doubt about it. It's a matter of getting the opportunity and taking advantage of it. Now, you just missed a hometown fight that had to be just terrible for you. How did that feel, missing that? And, what did that do for you mentally?
More than anything, it's motivating. And it's super disappointing and heartbreaking. I know I use that word a lot, but, you take it on the chin because of whether it be a manufacturer's defect or someone else's negligence that you get to miss out on one of your dreams. It's very tough. And more than anything, it's just about being better. Just be better. If you live in the past, that's where you're going to live. You know what I mean? I love looking forward and using it to motivate me to be better and get up at 6 a.m. to go do my strength conditioning / physio and making sure that I make all my training sessions. It's really easy to be sad. It's easy to just be depressed and focus on the negative, but that's what the losers do. And that's how I'm about moving forward, being positive, and for me, it's just keep moving forward, and eventually good things are going to happen to me.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Mitch? That to me, it speaks to what I've always said to my friends. I try to tell them how much mental the game is. Combat, period. Mentally. And people will say, oh, it's 90%, it's 95%. Listen, if you have the talent to compete at your level, it's 98 to 100% mental. Because once you've got the talent, it's all mental. There's nothing else left there. You're going to win or you're going to lose, and then it's how you deal with the defeats, with the negative things that happen. And that's something that you've shown and you've spoke to. And it's inspiring to me. And I want all the fans to be able to understand that, you know, you missed your fight in your hometown because of a needle that was a defect or something. And you're here talking, you've overcome it. What's coming up for the future for you, Mitch? What do you see? Is there anything you can tell us?
You know, nothing offhand. You know, hopefully get a fight in the new year, and up until then, hopefully to do a couple more. That's exactly what I'm doing. And you know, what do I expect? I want to show a whole new aspect of my game and improve them in every aspect if I can. But one I didn't have before. And more than anything, just keep getting better and win those fights that I need to win.
Now, I have to ask you, what was if you had to pick a fight in the UFC though, not outside, in the UFC, what was your most favorite fight, the fight that really inspired you, the fight that you would talk about right now to anybody? What was that fight and why was it?
Definitely the John McGuire fight. You know, there's a lot to it. I changed around my personal life a lot to be able to sacrifice a lot so I could do what I need to do to get that win. It was a win, and I was a big underdog. I was supposed to get steamrolled by this asshole, and he was treating it like a joke, and you know, it meant a lot. And you know, whenever I see that fight, it still kind of hits you in the feels. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it means a lot to me, and you know, I broke down after the fight. Obviously, it was just more than anything, it was a huge relief to be able to get a win like that over a very tough guy. You know, as a fan, I liked watching him. He's very dynamic in what he did. And, you know, he was able to implement his game plan a lot really well. And for me, it was just a great experience, and I mean, it meant so much to be able to beat him up and show that I can win in the UFC.
Well, you did more than beat him up, Mitch, because personally, I don't think he's ever been the same fighter since that fight. I really don't. McGuire was coming on. You know, he was a name, and he was getting some momentum, and then he met Mitch Clarke, and it all changed. And I don't necessarily know where Mr. McGuire is fighting at right now, but I know he's not fighting with Mitch anymore, and that was a hell of a fight, man. I got to say, I love that, man. I love that fight.
Yeah, me too. It means a lot to me. You know, he's often, I think, fighting in England right now. You know, he'll win one, lose one, but you know, I kind of set the game plan to beat him. I think is just that constant pressure and, and using those angles and not letting him breathe and make him make those mistakes.
Yeah, and you know what, Mitch? That's one of the things that when I watch a fight that's so exciting and inspiring to me is your pressure and your mental game. Again, comes to the mental game. You're not a quitter. You don't know how to quit. You're just not going to quit. Every fight, it doesn't matter. You could lose all the way to the last minute of the third round. I know Mitch is still in there to fight, and that's one of those things that as a fan, man, I respect the hell out of you, buddy. You've given me hours of entertainment. And, you know, I mean, all I can say is it's exciting to be able to speak to you, and especially when you beat the shit out of that guy, because I really wanted you to do it. That was one of my happy moments looking back at the fight game. Mitch, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to? Sponsors, family, friends?
Yeah, totally. You know, more than anything, you know, I want to thank you and the fans that I do have. You know, like I'm not a super popular fighter. I'm well aware. But, you know, the fans I do have, they're super loyal to me, and they're great. They get my dry sense of humor, and that's what I love more than anything. I got to thank my dad and my mom, my whole family. They're super supportive. You know, my loved ones here, my team at Complete Fitness, and yeah, the jiu-jitsu school I go to. under Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, frankly, Muay Thai, Avenue Boxing. I also want to send a big shout out to Just Cool Me. They're a company that charity, I believe, that really deals with improving people that have brain injuries. It's an important cause, and I think that it doesn't really get enough focus that it needs to get. Concussions is a common thing, and I've had concussions in fights, and it was not a good time. It was bad,
yeah.
And it's a scary thing. And so thanks to Just Cool Me and to Crocodile Helmet, Pro Mix, who else? River Valley Health and the base. They do a lot of my physio rehab and my strengthening of making me a better athlete. That's the biggest thing. I'm not a fast twitch guy. I'm strong, but aesthetically I'm very strong, but not that explosiveness I need to have to be at that next level. So that's the thing we're fixing. I'm trying to think.
It's hard to come out with other sponsors, isn't it? And all the people you want to thank. I mean, there's so many over the years.
Oh, exactly. Hayabusa, they sponsored me in my last grappling match, and Sissy Fightwear. They're both. To sponsor someone when they're not fighting is a big thing, and a lot of us lost a lot of sponsors in the recent months, and so to be able to have companies that are loyal and help out like that, it's a big thing, and being able to get sponsored throughout the rest of the year, it's important to fighters. I only fight once or twice a year, hopefully, and more than anything, I need that we need that help. And so for those kind of like crazy cactus in Saskatoon, it's important. And so for me, more than anything, it's about, I just want to say thank you to all those people. Also, there's a special lady that knows I say thank you for all her help.
You know what, Mitch? I'll tell you something. At LUB-MMA, we sponsor fighters as well. We're sponsoring female fighters right now, but I can tell you right now that if people understood what you have to go through in your training and your eating and your entire lifestyle in order to be able to entertain us, the fans, they might get it a little bit. They might understand how important it is to give you the opportunity to be able to train full time and commit to this job, this incredible opportunity that you're doing, that we enjoy as fans. Mitch, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. Nothing but respect from me, man, buddy. I love you. I think you are one hell of a fighter. Very deceiving with that smile. You are a killer, my friend. And nothing but respect, Mitch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Everybody, Mitch Clarke, one of my favorites, Canadian. We're happy.